Okay, so today we're going to talk about changing out the main oil tank on a Mercury 200 Optimax. I was on the lake in my boat, motoring, and I got the 4 beeps alarm on my Mercury SmartCraft, which means you got a problem with the oil reservoir, possibly low oil. After doing some testing, I found that the problem was my float in my main oil tank. An easy way to test that, I'll tell you to start with actually, is if you take this screw off right here, it allows you to pull this. These 2 wires are connected to a sensor probe. It allows you to pull that sensor probe out, and then what you can do is take a magnet and put it on that sensor probe, and it's got to be a decent size magnet. You put it on that sensor probe, and then you turn your key to the on position. Don't start the motor, but you turn your key to the on position, and that will act as if the float were working properly, and that way you can tell if it's a sensor problem or if it's the problem with the float in the tank. If your beeps go away, then you know that the sensor's fine, but if the beeps continue, then you know you need to replace your sensor. And in my case, the beeps went away when I put the magnet on there, so I knew that the float in the tank was actually what was bad, and so that's what we're going to talk about today, is how to replace this tank. One of the first things you want to do probably is to take the oil out of the tank. So I got myself a cheap siphon from Walmart. You can get them at not Tractor Supply, Harbor Freight, Walmart. Just get yourself, if you don't have one, get yourself a cheap siphon. We're going to stick that siphon, we're going to pop this cap open here on the top. It'll allow us to get into the oil tank. Take that cap all the way off. There's little feet on it there that make it a little hard to get out of there, but take that off. Pop my siphon tube down in here. Okay, you can see we've got our siphon tube in the main oil tank, and I've got it going down into a jug. We'll just get all that oil drained out of there so it's not so messy when we take it off, because there's a hose right on the bottom that connects to the tank, and we got to clip that zip tie off of there and then pull that loose. So a lot easier if the oil's drained out of there, it won't make a mess. So to test that sensor, I want to show you real quick. You just pop this screw off. That's just this screw has a washer, and that washer holds the sensor down so you can't pull it out of there. And the sensor doesn't have any oil on it because it's inside of a housing inside the main tank. But you're going to take a magnet, and you're going to place it, on this, under this ridge on this side of the probe. You're going to place a magnet there, and then you're going to want to turn your key on to the on position. Like, again, no, don't start the motor, but turn your key on, and when you do that, it'll give the initial beep that will be the self-check, and then after that initial beep, 20 seconds later is when your warning beeps would come. And again, if your sensor's good and you have that magnet on there, you're not going to hear those beeps anymore. But if your sensor's bad, then you're gonna the 4 beeps will still be there. So then you'll know whether it's the sensor or the float in the tank. Likely it's the float in the tank. So that's all there is to testing that sensor. So now that we've got that sensor out, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to unplug that. There is no right or wrong way to connect those wires, although I believe this is keyed so it goes in a certain way. I'm just going to set that aside. So now I've got that unplugged. The next thing you're going to do, and you can see if you're observant here, you can see I've already clipped this, but there's a zip tie on this hose. You're going to want to clip that off, and then you can just pull this hose off, kind of get that out of the way, right? And then you've got 3 bolts on this thing, 2 down on the bottom here and 1 on the top. They're 1/2 inch, So I've got a 1/2-inch wrench, like a box end wrench, and I also have a 1/2-inch socket. You're going to likely need to use the wrench a little bit, especially on these bottom ones. They're hard to get into, get your hand in there and to get your tool in there, but you know, you can figure that out and work them out of there. I've got these already all loosened up, so I'm going to go ahead and pop those off. All right, so I got the bottom 2 bolts out. I obviously loosened these up. Get this top one out here. Just be careful when you're taking these out of here. The washers will fall off and they'll immediately go to the center of the motor, so you got to fish them out. That's no fun. All right, so that gets the last bolt out. And then the only thing we have left is we have this zip tie at the bottom here that you got to clip. You pull that hose off, and then we've got the old main oil tank off of there. So I'm gonna grab a clippers, and I'm gonna clip that. Just be careful when you're doing this that you're just getting the zip tie and not getting the hose. There we go. I think I got through it. No, maybe not quite. There, I've got it. And I should just be able to pull this off. Kind of twist it around a little bit, work it around. Get it off of there. There we go. The old tank is out. Now it's time to put the new one in. Okay, so we got the new tank here. Time to put it back together. All right, so the first thing I'm gonna do is put this hose on the bottom one, and we're gonna get that cinched down with this zip tie here. I'm gonna grab it with the pliers and pull it tight. Get something here to kind of wedge it. Pull it as tight as I can. That should be good. And we're going to clip that off. All right, that's good. Now we'll get it in place here. Okay, you may have to finagle a little bit with those bolts. I ended up having to take the top bolt out and put the bottom 2 in first, and that seems to have worked. I'm just got to tighten them down now. So I'm going to pop this socket wrench on this one. This is the toughest one to get here. The one in the bottom right hand corner is the toughest one to get to for sure, but once you get your socket on there, you should be in good shape, unless it slips off like it's doing with me. There, I've got it going now. Not a lot of room in there to wrench it down, so it's going to take a little while, but it'll go. All right, so I've got all my bolts in and I've got them all tightened down. I put my tube back on, secured that with a zip tie. My next thing to do, I've still got to plug in my sensor, but I'm going to wait to do that. I need to fill this with oil, so I've got myself a little funnel here. You're going to want something like that because it's definitely not an easy spot to get to, and I would suggest a smaller bottle of the 2-cycle oil so that you can easily get it in there. But we're just going to use this and we're going to fill it up. So that other smaller bottle wasn't quite enough. Had to get a bigger bottle. Or another bottle, I should say. I didn't have to get a bigger one, just had to get another. This one just happens to be bigger. Go, we're getting close to the top now. Go real slow here. There it is. A little bit of overflow, that's okay, we'll wipe that up. Good there. Get this cap on. Oh, get in there. My hands are slippery. There we go. Get it nice and tight on there because this is pressurized, and we're good to go. Just got to plug in the sensor. Whoops. Try it the other way here. Oops. There, that's keyed, so it only goes in there one way. There we go. And we are ready to go. That's all there is to it. Good luck if you need to change yours. Hopefully this video is helpful. Tight lines.